Okay, let's get started. So welcome everybody to this mini class on stubborn weight during the perimenopause and menopause years. So for those who have joined us live, welcome. And you will be able to ask questions at the end. So, save your questions and make sure that you keep them for the end, and then I will go through as many of them as I can. So with that in mind, let me right, okay, so let's kick off. So most women in their 40s or 50s are confused by what they need to focus on when it comes to losing weight and or belly fat. And just to let you know, can somebody just tell me in the chat, can you see just can you just see me? No slides, nothing? Yes, perfect. Okay, because I'm not doing slides today, I'm just going to talk. So yeah, most women in their 40s or 50s, they're confused by what they need to focus on when it comes to losing weight, because it is not the same as when we are in our 20s and 30s. So today, for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to dive in to how to overcome that and how to start shedding those pounds and encouraging the body to actually release that fat using the very method I have shared with many clients. For example, my client Jane, who had been trying to lose weight for years, but was missing the key underlying reasons of why her body wouldn't shed an ounce. And it was instead constantly gaining weight, despite doing things like controlling her calories, making sure she didn't eat rubbish. She doesn't eat rubbish. She's not one of these people that lives on, junk food or eats loads of chocolates and things. She was doing everything, textbook right, and going to the gym loads. And that's what I'm going to share with you today, so that you don't have to struggle like Jane did. Jane started working with me towards the end of November, and she has already lost over 4 kilos, despite not being able to lose an ounce in the last few years. And that's very typical of the sort of people that work with me. They come to me because they have not been able to lose weight. And then when they follow the process and they do it the right way, then things start to happen and the body feels like it can lose the weight. So if you've tried doing things like cutting calories, exercising more, doing keto, fasting, I think somebody said intermittent fasting, Slimming World, Weight Watchers, those were mentioned, but you're still left with the same stubborn weight, or worse, gaining weight, then the problem isn't that you need to do that, continue to do that, or eat less, restrict yourself, or exercise more. The problem is that your hormones are in some way out of whack. And I don't just mean estrogen. When I'm talking about hormones, I'm not just talking about estrogen. I am talking about many hormones, including hormones like insulin, cortisol, and your thyroid hormones too. But here's the thing, if you follow the right steps like Jane is doing right now, and you get to the root cause of your stubborn weight, then the body will feel safe enough to release the fat. I get it. It feels so demoralizing and exhausting and depressing when you have tried doing things like restricting your diet and, feeling hungry, but you still don't see the scales move, or you're counting your calories in, calories out, or trying to get your macro ratios right. Very popular in the gym world, macro splits, they call it. And if that's not working, or going to the gym loads, killing yourself with exercise to try and burn more calories, to try and burn fat, but you're still not seeing anything budge. And actually you might even be seeing the scales going up rather than down, or it might go down for a short period of time but then go back up again. It's very, very depressing. So we're going to dive into the same strategies that all of the women I work with use. Hundreds of women just like Jane I've helped to finally shift those stubborn pounds, there isn't just one cause of stubborn weight. The underlying cause will be slightly different for each of you. There will be crossovers, of course, but if you've come here hoping that I'm going to be saying, right, all you need to do is this, then you're going to be disappointed. I'm not going to be telling you one thing, because there isn't one thing. If there was, it would be so simple and everybody would do it, right? With a menopausal or perimenopausal body, it's much more complex than that. And you have to understand that and then work with your body. I'm going to show you the common causes of weight issues in perimenopause and menopause and what needs to be done. There is, unfortunately, no golden chalice. There is, however, an underlying root cause of why you can't lose weight. And once you understand that, then the scales can start to shift. Let me just check the chat. Okay, thank you, whoever shared that they could, you could see, that's perfect, thank you. So, perimenopause and menopause are dictated by sex hormones declining, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Now, in the early stages of perimenopause, our estrogen can go crazy, and we can feel all the effects of that. And then, but progesterone starts on a steady decline, okay? And then testosterone too starts to wane. Now, with that comes changes to other hormones. And this is what many people do not take on board. It impacts other hormones like cortisol, your stress hormone, your main stress hormone, leptin, which is your hunger hormone, insulin, which has many roles, well, they all do, but insulin is primarily a fat storing hormone. It's the one that takes glucose out of the blood and into the cells. And your thyroid hormone, they are all impacted when our sex hormones start to decline. And this in turn impacts the speed of your metabolism, how hungry you are, how much fat you store and where you store it. We can't control our sex hormone decline, but we can improve the outcome for our other hormones, okay? Thyroid is the first one. So I'm going to go through these in no particular order and talk about each one and how we have to we have to be sure that these are working as they should if we want the body to operate properly, to function properly, the metabolism to work properly, and fat to be released in a natural way if we are eating the right foods. So first of all, thyroid. I speak to so many women who have been to the GP and had their TSH and their T4 checked, or sometimes just their TSH, and they get that lovely message from the receptionist back to them. Sometimes they'll just send them an email, sometimes they'll just leave a phone message, and they'll just say normal, no action required, or something along those lines. And it's very, very deflating, because you're like, right, I tick all the symptoms of an underactive thyroid, and yet I'm told there's nothing wrong with my thyroid. Okay, well, there must be nothing wrong with my thyroid. Well, then what's wrong with me? Why do I have all these symptoms? And weight gain and stubborn weight is one of those symptoms. With the thyroid, everything starts to slow down. So including the metabolism, including weight loss, everything's slow. So we get things like we lose hair doesn't grow properly. So a lot of women with underactive thyroid, they comment that their hair, they only maybe grow a tiny bit every month. I mean, I have very fast growing hair. Mine grows over an inch a month. A lot of people who have underactive thyroid don't have, they have very slow. Losing outer edges of the eyebrows, having cold hands and feet, feeling cold all the time, sleeping too much, lethargy, feeling like you're moving through treacle, and of course the weight, not being able to lose weight no matter what you do. The problem with just measuring TSH and T4 is that that is just looking at the thyroid production. It's looking at the gland and how much thyroid hormone it is producing, okay? And that is one tiny element of the whole thyroid system. The actual production from the gland is one element, because what happens to that thyroid hormone after it's produced is also incredibly important. There is a process that converts that T4 into what we call T3, which is the active form of thyroid hormone. And if that conversion isn't happening, and there's lots of different reasons why that might be so, then we will not have enough thyroid hormone. But a T4 and a TSH test won't tell us that. But then at a cellular level as well, you might be producing plenty of thyroid hormone, you might be converting it perfectly well. But if it can't get through the cell membranes into the cell where it needs to be active, to activate, then you are going to have problems with symptoms of underactive thyroid. Again, that's not going to be picked up on that test. And so I work with a hell of a lot of women who have got underactive thyroid at a cellular level. They may be producing ample thyroid hormone, they may not. The ranges that the GP uses are much broader than the optimal ranges I use. But even if they are, doesn't necessarily mean it's getting into your cells where you can actually use it. And if that's the it's going to be very hard to lose any weight. It's going to be very hard it's going to be very, very hard to get rid of your symptoms if you don't get to the bottom of that. Then we have cortisol. So I spoke about cortisol. It has many functions in the body. It is your stress and danger hormone. Okay, so when you are in fight or flight, when something happens, we first of all release adrenaline, and then 10 minutes later, cortisol comes along. It's there for increasing the metabolism of glucose. It helps to reduce inflammation. Lots and lots of reasons why. The reasons that cortisol is so important. Chronic stress, however, and cortisol is a survival hormone. We need it, right? We can't live without it. But chronic stress leads to an overproduction of cortisol, which leads to weight gain. So things like working too long hours, working too late into the night, not getting enough sleep, life stressors, work, jobs, family, relationships, money, worrying about the past, worrying about what's going to happen in the future, worrying about this mad world that we live in at the moment, can all add to this total stress load on the body. And if your stress levels are chronically raised, that is going to affect your cortisol. And over time, that can get to a point where your adrenals get very fatigued. And as I said, chronic stress leads to this overproduction of cortisol, which can lead to weight gain. And once the adrenals become too tired, then it's a whole different ball game, which is a lot of the women that I work with. Too much exercise as well is a big one with cortisol. So if you are a stressed person and your body is stressed already and you can't lose weight and you're getting belly fat, and then you are pushing yourself at the gym and spinning and, all the classes, like my client Jane was doing, so much exercise and not losing anything, then something's not working, right? It's not working. So you have to take a different strategy. And that's exactly what we did. We took a different strategy with her. A stressed body struggles to lose weight because our appetite's affected, our blood glucose is raised, and it reduces our ability to burn fat and increases the rate at which we store fat, especially around the middle, which is why high stress can lead to this belly fat ring, along with the insulin resistance, which I'm going to come on to. There's a special relationship between insulin and cortisol. They are, they're buddies. They work hand in hand. And then we come on to insulin and blood glucose control. It's estimated that 1 in 2 women will have, to some degree, insulin resistance after menopause. Okay. So after menopause, 1 in 2 is estimated will have, to some degree, insulin resistance. So what is insulin resistance? It's when the body's cells are less sensitive to insulin. This means more insulin is produced to maintain normal blood glucose levels. And over time, this can lead to increased blood sugar. And that in turn can lead to things like pre-diabetes and diabetes and metabolic syndrome, etc., which we really want to avoid. There is a direct correlation between insulin resistance and perimenopause and menopause too. Estrogen has a beneficial effect on insulin sensitivity, and when it declines, insulin resistance becomes more common. This is exacerbated by the wrong nutrition and too much stress. So, you know, it's fun, isn't it? Perimenopause and menopause. We go through this time of our lives where our hormones can be all over the place and causing all the symptoms. And then on top of that, we have to really think about much more about what we're eating, what we're drinking, how much stress we are under, how much exercise we do, how we're looking after ourselves. And then finally, the speed of metabolism. As we reach our 40s and into perimenopause, it can seem like your metabolism has literally reduced from a steady pace to a tortoise crawl. A slowed metabolism means that we metabolize, i.e. process and use glucose at a slower rate. Everything slows down in the body when we become what we call slow metabolizers or slow oxidizers. Energy levels are often lowered, meaning that we're left feeling tired and we don't feel refreshed after sleep, etc. In fact, excessive reduction in your metabolic rate causes fatigue and requires extra amounts of rest. So the speed of metabolism is another factor. Okay, so you're probably thinking, what's the answer? What do I do about this? You're very well knowing this. What do I do? First of all, we have to get good control of our blood glucose and improve any insulin resistance that may be there. This can be enough for some to start to lose the weight. Depending on what's going on in your body, it's where everyone that works with me must start. And that includes people who don't particularly need to lose weight. You still have to work on balancing blood glucose and making sure that that part of your body is working properly, that you are not heading into insulin resistance if you aren't already there, that you're not on a roller coaster of blood glucose through the day. If you don't do that, then it makes it very difficult to improve anything else. So it doesn't matter whether you've come to me with tiredness or other symptoms, or whether you've come to me because you want to lose weight, or whether there's 10 different symptoms. Blood glucose control and making sure that insulin resistance isn't a thing for you is an absolute must. It has to be where we start. And it's not just about cutting carbohydrates. I saw that some people, when I asked the question in the chat, when I asked the question at the start, what have you tried before? And some people said cutting carbs, going low carbs. That's not necessarily the right answer. It's depending on your metabolic speed and what your body needs, that might actually be the wrong approach for you as an individual. And intermittent fasting, doing things like that is actually very stressful on the body, especially if you're doing massive long fasts overnight. People doing 16, 18-hour fasts. Most women in perimenopause and menopause, that's not a good idea. It's too much stress on the body. The body's already going through a stressful period. It's trying to find a new equilibrium. And then we're adding this extra stress. Same with keto. Keto doesn't suit most perimenopause and menopausal women. Keto is really useful for very targeted, short stints when required. But for the sort of women I work with, no, keto is not the answer. So we have to get that control of our blood glucose. And there's many ways we can do that. Of course, diet and what we're eating the types of carbohydrates, the amounts of carbohydrates, when we're eating them, what we're doing before and after can help with that. We have to remove unnecessary and unwanted stressors. This might mean just simply slowing down, doing less exercise, less trying to be perfect, trying to be the perfect mum, the perfect boss, the perfect employee, the perfect friend, the perfect daughter, the perfect sister. All of those things, the amount of women I talk to who are just, they don't ever sit down and do nothing. And I don't mean sitting in front of Netflix. I mean, actually, can you sit down and do nothing and not feel stressed about it and not feel guilty that you're not doing enough? But it's also stresses like food and alcohol. Food, bad food, you know, the wrong foods, too much glucose, too much sugar, drinking loads of alcohol, you know, eating poor breakfasts, eating late at night. All these things can put stress on the body. And then there's toxic chemicals as well. You know, what are you putting on your skin? Are you putting chemicals on your skin? Because if you are, that's stressful for the body. Your body's got to get rid of them. Or are you using organic products? Are you eating organic foods, or are you eating foods with loads of chemicals in? Are you eating trans fats? You know, are you eating the healthy fats, or are you eating things with lots of seed oils and, you know, sunflower oil and all of those types of things which cause inflammation and stress on the body? And cleaning products, what are you cleaning your house with? Are you spraying your bath with Mr. Muscle and then having a good soak in it? And all of those chemicals going into your skin and into your body. All of that is so important when it comes to stress. Everyone thinks about stress as just emotional or mental stress, but there's so much more to it. And then we have the thyroid. We've got to ensure a healthy functioning thyroid system, not just the gland, but the whole system, from production right the way down to the cellular activity. Now, that's something that you can't do on your own, of course. I understand that. That's something that you need to work with somebody like me to get to the bottom of, if that's a problem for you, if you think that's a problem for you, or if you wonder if it is, then asking me and finding out whether that is a problem for you. And finally, there is the mineral status. Those of you who have been following me for a while know that I talk about minerals. I talk about minerals, I talk about mineral status, ratios, and balance, because they determine the metabolic speed. They determine cellular thyroid function. They determine how well your adrenals function and whether you have the energy production capability to actually burn food at a normal rate. And this is where I differ to most practitioners in my space, in the menopause space, because very, very few dig into minerals. But minerals are the spark plugs of the body, and without balancing minerals, it's really hard to bring anything else back to balance, including your hormones. By analysing our minerals, we can identify and evaluate our body type to determine if we are what we call a slow or a fast metabolizer. And 80 to 90% of the women I work with are generally chronically slow metabolizers. I occasionally get a fast metabolizer, but it's rare. However, don't think that fast means no weight issues. That's not always the case. I have a lot of slow metabolizers who think that if they could just be fast, then everything would be sorted, and that's not true. Once we discover what somebody's metabolic speed is and what their minerals are showing, I can advise on the exact steps to take to rebalance minerals and get that metabolism revved up again, meaning weight loss, more energy, better mood, motivation back, and lots more. Okay, so to quickly recap, that is the basis for healthy, sustained weight loss in your 40s and 50s. The blood glucose balance, the sorry, somebody's just joining. The blood glucose balance and reduced insulin resistance, the reduction in all aspects of stress on the body, not just emotional, but physical and environmental stress too, a healthy functioning thyroid system, not just the gland itself, and the balanced minerals. Now, if weight issues are a problem that you constantly face, and I know for some of you, you've had enough of trying to work this out on your own and you want guidance on what to do, for those of you who would like to find out more and work with me, there are two options. There's first my self-paced program called Belly Buster Method. That's the one, it's self-paced, you do go through it on your own, and it focuses on blood glucose balance, insulin sensitivity, and looks at the impacts of stress and takes you through the steps you need to take to resolve all of those. And I'm going to share with you the link for that for anybody who's interested and wants to take a look. The second option is for those who want to do all of that, but also want to dive into finding out about their metabolic speed, their cellular thyroid health, and their adrenal health, and so on, with the mineral analysis. And they want the guidance and support from me. So I'm going to pop the link for BBM in the comments first. Let me just do that. And then I can share with you about the other options. So let me just do that now. And then I'm going to answer everybody's questions. So okay, so that's the Belly Buster method. Hopefully you can all see that. And so yes, the other option is, sorry, first of all, BBM. So it's the page, it explains all the detail, what the program's about, what it includes, how it works, and you can sign up from there. There's two payment options. One is pay in full, and then there's a split payment to help those who can't do it all in one go. So that's there for you. For those who are interested in the second option, I'm going to share my link to book a complimentary call, because working on the mineral side of things and everything else, we need to have a chat, and I need to see what's going on for you, whether I think that it's something that will help you, whether it's a good fit before accepting, because I don't accept everybody onto that program with me. It depends on what's going on for you. So I like to have a chat about it first. So you get, if you book a complimentary exploratory call, it's a 30-minute call. Before you join it, you'll get a pre-application form, which you fill in just to give me background, so I can see whether I want to, whether it's a place to, whether it's somewhere that I want to go. And then we go from there. So let me just share that. Okay. Let me just go back through the questions. Okay, we are a little bit over, so I'm just going to answer some of these, and then I can answer others afterwards, because I know lots of you are on your lunch hours, etc. So why don't they change the test for thyroid? Good question. I don't know why they don't change the test for thyroid. Well, actually, I do. I'll tell you why. This is why I think they don't change the test for thyroid, because the treatment for thyroid in the medical profession is there's one treatment and one treatment only, and that is giving people thyroxine. So it doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter whether they were to run further tests or not. They only have one treatment, and so they can only give thyroxine if somebody's showing as not producing enough thyroid hormone. And so that's why it's you know, it's a lot deeper than that, but that's kind of top level why they don't do that. Docs refuse to test my cortisol levels. Yeah, not all GPs will do it, and I guess again it's like their view is, well, what am I going to do afterwards if there is an issue with cortisol levels, because they only have medications, and medications you know, aren't really the solution for tired adrenals, for adrenals that aren't functioning properly, or if you're producing too much cortisol. So they don't have the treatment for it, so therefore they're not going to run the tests. They tend to run cortisol if they think that there is a disease associated, then they will run it, but otherwise they won't, because they're not doing functional testing. I do functional testing. They're testing for disease. That's the difference. My GP practically laughed at me when I mentioned a fatigued adrenal gland. Yeah, there's a lot of, unfortunately, there's a lot of misunderstanding and misinformation around the adrenals. They don't like to talk about fatigued adrenals, so we're not supposed to talk about adrenal fatigue. I still do, because I think it's a very good description of what happens, but in the medical profession and in the scientific world, the adrenals aren't fatigued, and so they don't like you to use that term. That's probably why he laughed. I'm going through stressful times at the moment, so when the stress is reduced, will I start to lose weight or not gain more weight? It depends, Kerry. It really depends. I wouldn't have the answer to that. It depends on whether when you've finished, when the stressful phase is over, if everything rebalances, or whether you need some help to rebalance. I can't answer that. I don't know. But stress is a big part of it, absolutely. And so reducing stress either way is really, really important. But I love exercise. Yes, I can see. Yeah, Jane's answered and said, just cut the cardio and cut the spinning, etc. It's not that you don't exercise, don't get me wrong. Jane's not exercising. She's doing different exercise, but she's not using exercise to try and burn calories. That's the difference. I'm not telling anybody to stop exercising, so don't for 1 minute think that that's what I do. I'm telling people, I'm working with people, if they've got issues with cortisol, adrenals, etc., I'm working with them to help reduce their the effects of the exercise, the stress from exercise. But everybody needs to exercise, everybody needs to move. It's about what type, how much, personalized for you. That's what's important. What do I mean by minerals? Minerals are, what do I mean by minerals? So minerals are things like calcium, potassium, sodium, copper, phosphorus, zinc. Those are all minerals, and they are essential to the body, and we can't make them in the body, so we have to get them externally. So we have to get them either from food, or we have to get them from supplementation. The problem is, most people don't know what their levels are in their body, and they don't know what's happening, and supplementing actually can cause more problems if you don't know what you're doing, because one mineral can throw out the others. So minerals are, as I said, they're like spark plugs to the rest of the body. They are required for enzymatic processes, for hormone production, for so many things. And when they're out, they affect everything, including our metabolism, how the thyroid system functions, our adrenals, and whether we're actually producing cortisol properly, even impact on in our estrogen and progesterone levels. Very, very important. And for me, it's absolutely foundational to health, getting minerals right. That's what I mean by that. Okie dokie, I am going to leave it there because we are well over time. And if anybody wants to ask me anything, just drop me a message. If anybody's booked a call with me, I look forward to chatting to you and seeing if I can help. If anyone's got any questions about Belly Buster Method, feel free to drop me a DM, direct message me or email me, and I will get back to you. I'm here to help. So, ask me questions, and we will go from there. And I hope that was helpful. I hope everybody found that informative. My aim is always to educate. I find that if people are educated and they understand how their body's working, then especially women who, educated women who want to feel their best will do something about it. So I hope that was helpful. And I will hopefully see you on the next one. All right, take care. Bye for now.